pharmacists were very detail oriented and borderline OCD. That just comes with the profession. And a lot of people have a hard time delegating.
Mm.
But to me, when you're running such a large hospital operation and running a large real estate portfolio, which translate, you have to be able to delegate and leverage other people and have trust in people. If they can do something 70 to 80% as good as you, it's time to delegate it out. Right. And you got to view your time on a per hour basis, right? Is it worth my time to do a letter, which costs me $1.50, $2 and, you know, per letter, and it takes me 8 hours to do it? I'm actually better off working at a pharmacy shift, for example, and I'll make more money and it'll cover that direct mailing campaign.
Welcome to the How to Scale Commercial Real Estate Show. Whether you are an active or passive investor, we'll teach you how to scale your real estate investing business into something big.
Steven Nguyen has scaled from 0 to 90 units in 5 years while working a full-time job as a pharmacy director, and he's done it completely without partners and on his own. Steven, welcome to the show.
Hey, Sam, happy to be on and to share my journey.
Absolutely. Steven, I'm looking forward to this. There are 3 questions I ask every guest who comes on the show. In 90 seconds or less, can you tell me, where did you start? Where are you now? And how did you get there?
So currently, I've been working full time as a pharmacy director for about 10 years now. And when I graduated, I made 250,000. I had $250,000 in student debt. So out the gate, I just said, "Wow, I'm $250,000 in debt." Grinded for 4 or 5 years to pay off that student loan, which was humongous. But after I paid that off, I said, "Well, what's next?" Right? I just paid off this massive student debt. So the natural progression was to start off with single family homes. So that's exactly what I did. I used something called house hacking. So I bought a house with 10% down, lived in the master bedroom, and I rented out the 3 other bedrooms that were vacant. So that was $3,000 a month. And from there, that covered my mortgage. So I just had to cover my property tax, insurance, and utilities. So I was living for $1,500 a month in California, which is pretty good, especially in like San Francisco area. And my goal was to do this one single family home a year for 10 years. And after year 3, I quickly realized that this was not sustainable. In California, you don't cash flow. It's purely appreciation. You're lucky to break even despite self-managing. So once again, that was another sticking point. How do I scale from here and make more cash flow? That's when I learned about apartment complexes and started a direct mailing campaign. So I sent out a bunch of letters to Oklahoma City, about 1,800 letters, 300 a month for 6 months. And from that direct mailing campaign, I got my 2 first apartment complexes. I got a 26 unit in Oklahoma City and a 20 unit in Oklahoma within about 6 months of sending these letters out. And uh, it just completely blew my mind. The moment I learned that apartments were based on the NOI divided by the market cap rate versus single family, it's based on the sales comparable. For
Right.
single family, it doesn't matter how much rent you get. You can get one single family can get 10,000, the one next door can get 5,000. They're both worth the same.
Correct.
But with apartment complexes, the more income you have, you force the appreciation.
Right.
So you have cash flow and appreciation. Once I learned that, my mind was blown. I just said, you know what? I need to go to apartments. And what was crazy was in Oklahoma City, the apartment was $500,000 for my 26 unit and 350,000 for my 20 unit, and that's cheaper than a condo in California. Like literally, a
Sure.
condo in California costs more than that. My single family homes were close to 1 million each, and I
Mhm.
just said, "Wow, I'm getting more cash flow. It's cheaper, and after I do my value add strategy, I can double or triple the value by
Right.
doubling or tripling the rents." So that's when I started to scale massively during COVID. So that started during 2021 when it was
Mm.
a hot real estate market. But because I did a direct mailing campaign, I was able to get these deals off market and work direct with owner and negotiate.
Wow.
And then from there, it led me down the rabbit hole of mobile home parks, where I basically started sending letters out to mobile home park owners. And same thing, I was able to get a 200 lot mobile home park in Alabama, about 40 lots occupied, 160 lots vacant. And same thing. I got for $1 million or 1.1, and I was able to negotiate seller financing because the owner owned it free and clear, and I was able to build that trust and leverage my skills as a pharmacist. So I know that's pretty fast there, but that's kind of how I scaled from 0 to 90 units in 5 years. Started off in single family home, and honestly, in the past year and a half, that's when I bought my 2 apartment complexes in mobile home park. So all my success was pretty recent, I'd say.
That's awesome growth, though. I mean, in a very short period of time, and especially being able to do it on your own, without partners. That's there's a lot of moving pieces there. Direct mail gets a bad rap.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of time to manage it. It takes a lot of money to send out the mailers. Tell me about, I mean, just how you built the list. I mean, that in of itself is a bit of a feat in going, okay, how do we narrow this down into the most qualified candidates for whatever it is you're trying to acquire? Can you talk to us about
Yeah.
the process?
Yeah. So for my direct mailing list, I use PropStream. And there's a lot of multifamily criteria that you can use.
Mhm.
Kind of off the top of my head, you can click on like commercial real estate, multifamily, 100 plus units, multifamily, 5 plus units, garden style apartment complex. There's about 10 criteria points that I use. But the key is you want to find a sample listing on LoopNet and then put it into PropStream and see how they classify it. Because sometimes each county and each state classifies it differently. And I will say it's kind of an art. Like no matter what list you get, there'll always be some inaccuracies. Like even when I sent my letters out, sometimes you have owners calling you of duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, as well as retail strip centers. That's just the nature of the beast. But that was my first step was the criteria. But what kind of led me to my most success is making a very personalized letter. So my strategy is a little bit different. I don't use a postcard. I actually send uh, A2 envelope. It's invitation size, so it's almost like a thank you card from like your friend or family member.
Right.
And the name address is handwritten. On the back side, I put my address, and that's where I use my title. So I'm technically a doctor. So I use Dr. Steven Nguyen. Pharmacists are doctors. Not many people know that.
Right.
And then from there, they open up my letter, and on my letter, I just kind of talk about myself. I don't come off as a big syndicator, a big corporation. I just say, hey, I'm Steven. I'm a pharmacist, been working for 10 years. I own X amount of real estate units, and I'm just looking to buy some more real estate so I can provide for my family in the future. Just come off very casual, very low key, very humble, right? I have this humbleness despite scaling to 90 units. I try to stay humble.
Sure.
My girlfriend helps me with that. Um,
They always
and
do.
from there, basically I just write, hey, I want to make an offer for your apartment complex. I make it easy, simple, the typical letters that come out there.
Oh,
And then, but the difference, what I do is I have, handwrite my name and signature, and I write a call to action in written. So I'll write, hey, Sam, call me. This is my phone number.
mm,
So, this is kind of the strategy that I've honed by doing multiple direct mailing campaigns. And typically, I send out about 300 letters a month. I have about 3% response rate. So about maybe 9 to 10 people will call me. And out of that 10, maybe 1 to 2 might be serious. So it's really a numbers game. And then on top of that, it compounds because sometimes people will call me to this day for letters I sent out almost a year and a half ago because
wow.
they throw it in a dresser and all of a sudden they find it. So, because of that, I shared my journey about direct mailing campaign, and it almost came to the point where people were asking me, "Hey, Steven, can you just do it for me?" So now I kind of do offer that service where I would do a direct mailing campaign for people, and all they have to do is just pick up their phone, respond to a text, respond to an email, because I know a lot of people are busy. They have kids, families, elderly parents to take care of. But for me, I don't have that yet. So I'm just trying to help people out and get their first deal. Because some of the deals that I bought were just insanely underpriced by going direct to owner.
For sure. What the process of handwriting each of those? I mean, that's a mind-numbing process to write 300 handwritten letters. Have you found a way to, I mean, especially if you're doing it for other people, how do you scale that? I mean, there's got to be
Oh,
some.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Sorry. So I actually tried my first myself. It took me 8 hours to prepare 300 letters, but I actually outsourced my letters to a company called Yell Letters Complete,
Okay.
and they will actually do the handwriting for you. So they'll handwrite the address, they'll hand sign my name, and then they'll also handwrite that call to action and also prepare the letters in the way I tell them to do it. So because of that, I'm able to kind of leverage a direct mailing campaign and then free myself of the time.
Right.
So, it's people can use that company as well. But even on top of that, some people feel it's overwhelming to like send a list from PropStream as well as your letter template for them. Despite me teaching it, that's why people still reached out to me, despite me like basically telling people A through Z how to do a direct mailing campaign. They just still, it sounds very intimidating and it has a bad rap, as you mentioned. Most people
Sure.
like to text and email. That's kind of the modern day.
Yep.
But because of that, direct mail is more effective, especially if you're trying to target a more, mom and pop owner, which I
Mhm.
do.
Right.
So it's highly effective for mom and pop owners. I spent about $3,000 for my direct mailing campaign, 1,800 letters, and that made me $300,000 equity day one with just my 2 apartment complexes. To be
Wow.
honest, that's 100x return on my money. Anyone will take that.
I like those return profiles. That's not bad. So tell me, you spend $3,000 a month, or no? You spent that
Oh,
that was
total
$300 a month times 6
6 months.
months. Right. Right.
Yeah.
And so then you're basically at, what is that, $1.50, $1.75 a letter, roughly.
Yeah, it's about a $1.50 a letter, and
Yeah.
prop stream is about $100 a month.
Yeah.
So, it's about $500 a month to do your direct mailing campaign.
That's,
And
I
like I
mean,
said, yeah,
and for a very targeted list. I mean, I go back to, I mean, all the stuff I get in the mail, for our house here. It's like right where I live, like, hey, I'll buy your house. Which, there was a time in my real
yeah,
estate career when I did that too. And most of it's just the same thing over and
yeah.
over and over. I'm like, there is no differentiator between the one letter, you put it in a letter and you put it in an envelope, but it's still some, pre-printed, we buy houses thing, and then there's postcard that's just all that stuff. Of course, for me, I'm not looking to sell my house, so I just throw it away.
Hmm.
But I mean, I think that's why direct mail gets a bad rap, because it's all wash, rinse, repeat, the same product coming to the potential seller, and you found a unique way to scale that. How did you build? I know you said you used PropStream to build the list. What gave you the idea of pivoting and going after mobile home parks, especially? I mean, it's a big country. How did you pick
Yeah.
Alabama and say, you know what, I'm going to put this one in Alabama, one of my 300 potentials, on the list?
Yeah, for me, I was really focusing on the Southeast, kind of like more cash flow markets because I own single family homes in California, but I just wanted more cash flow. And if you combine with apartments, the more cash flow you get, the more you force the appreciation. So it's more
Sure.
in your control. Like Oklahoma, if you buy a single family home, that thing only goes up 3% a year at best. It's a steady Eddie market.
At
But if
best.
I can, yeah, best, right? But so I call it an unsexy market. But because of that, there's less competition. So I focus on small apartment complexes between 5 to 50 units. And it's usually a mom and pop owner. And like I said, if I can get an apartment, my 26 unit I got for $500,000. I negotiated $60,000 in seller repair credit during the hottest real estate market, and they appraised at $750,000 day one. So that's $300,000 right there by me sending out a letter,
Wow.
right? And on top of that, the owner hasn't raised rents in 5 years.
Hmm.
So I'm renovating all the units, $8,000 to $10,000 per unit, new kitchen, new flooring, new paint, everything brand new. And I can effectively double the rent from about 350 to 700. And I've done
Right.
that already of some of my units. So now my NOI has increased significantly. I think it's gonna be worth around 1.3 to 1.5 million. Do a cash out refi. At that point, you pull out all your down payment, all your renovation costs, plus extra money, and then you can buy another apartment complex.
Right.
So to me, that's why I started targeting that market. But what kind of led me to mobile home parks, honestly, like any real estate investor, I had shiny object syndrome. Honestly, I am actually listing it for sale, ironically. But for me, what I really liked about mobile home parks is it's affordable housing.
Yeah.
Like in my mind, I just said, where could I get 50 acres of land, 200 lot mobile home park for $1.1 million? That's $6,000 per lot. It costs $20 to $30,000 just to build one lot in a mobile home park.
Right.
So I bought it. I knew I was buying it right, and I was the type to, I kind of jump out of the airplane first and figure my parachute on the way down. So I kind of did the same with my mobile home park, where I started consuming a lot of podcasts. But I just kind of knew that, like, at some high level numbers, it was around maybe 30 units or 30 units occupied when I got it. If you can get, and I got it for $1 million. If you get to half, so that's 100 unit lots filled, it's gonna be worth about 6 million. If it's all filled at 200, that's gonna be worth closer to 10 million.
Wow.
So I just said, I think I just need to get this park to a certain level. So I got to around 40 to 50. At that point, I think I can sell it for double. So now I'm engaging, larger operators who can actually infill 160 lots and have a team and infrastructure to do it. For me, I feel like I brought it as far as I could as just a single operator. And I just realized my limitation that in order to bring in like 3 to 5 homes per month and sell it or rent it out, you need boots on the ground. Like you need to be there with a team. And I think I just don't have the infrastructure, but maybe large syndicators do because they usually have like regional managers and build teams that are built out. So they have the economies of scale. And I felt like I don't have that currently. So, for the right price, I'm willing to sell and then hopefully take that and scale my apartment portfolio in Oklahoma City because I have a really strong property manager in Oklahoma City. That's why I chose Oklahoma City. And I know that I can easily scale to like 200, 300 units easily and not even be stressed and still work full time.
Right.
Versus my mobile home park is taking about 80% of my time and energy and money right now, to be honest. So it was just kind of a lesson I learned, but I don't regret it. I mean, I learned quite a bit. And in the future, when I want to do mobile home parks again, I know how to do it successfully.
Right. That's really cool, Steven. I love that. And I love the use of direct mail. You've given really the secret sauce. Thanks for breaking that down here
Yeah.
on the show today. Talk to me. You have 40 pharmacists, that work for you currently, I think, at the hospital. It's a lot of people to manage. And like you said earlier, time is your most precious asset, and it's not something you can't create more of it.
Yes.
Talk to me about outsourcing and leveraging and how you've effectively done that with your portfolio.
Yeah. So, as you alluded to, I manage about 40 pharmacists, and, pharmacists were very detail oriented and borderline OCD. That just comes with the profession. And a lot of people have a hard time delegating. But to me, when you're running such a large hospital operation and running a large real estate portfolio, which translate, you have to be able to delegate and leverage other people and have trust in people. If they can do something 70 to 80% as good as you, it's time to delegate it out. Right. And you got to view your time on a per hour basis, right? Is it worth my time to do a letter, which cost me $1.50, $2 and, per letter, and it takes me 8 hours to do it? I'm actually better off working a pharmacy shift, for example, and I'll make more money and it'll cover that direct mailing campaign. But, for me, the first person was finding my who. So they said, why do I choose Oklahoma City? The only reason I say is because I had a strong property manager there, plain and simple. 9 out of 10 property managers are terrible, unfortunately. And it takes about 3 to 6 months to determine if they're good or not. I have a very extensive interview process. And despite that, it's hit or miss. Right. It's almost like the NFL draft in the first round. It's hit or miss.
Right.
And so because of that, I built a system where I have multiple. I have my main property manager. I have 2 backups in case my first one does not perform, and I just go down my list. Right, first one doesn't perform, I engage my second one. Second one doesn't perform, I engage my third one, and you just go down. It's the same thing in the workforce, right? Like if you hire someone, they don't perform, what are you gonna do? You're gonna give them warnings, and then eventually bring in someone to replace them slowly.
Right.
So it's the same. It's very translatable from a W-2 to pharmacy. And then also, so number one, my property manager, right? So they take care of my renovation for me as well. So they typically serve as my property manager and my general contractor. If they don't do both, they can usually refer you to a general contractor that they use.
Right.
So at that point, you're using referrals, and then you do interview them to see if they fit your vision. So from there, if they do that, then you try them out. But like I said, unfortunately, you don't know till you use them. Like everyone talks a great talk when you're trying to give them a job or give them money, right? Whether that's property manager or contractor. So you just use it and then you test them and say, hey, I know I'm a small fish. I only own 26 units. And you're going to renovate it. But if you help me successfully renovate this and raise the income, I'm going to buy more. And guess who's going to manage the next one? It's going to be you. And now I own 2. And after the same thing, raise the rents, cash out refi. Now I own 4. So that's how you get that slow compounding. So you just make it known that you want to scale alongside with them. And also, just be easy to work with. Like this is a skill that I learned. A lot of investors and business owners, unfortunately, are not easy to work with, but I try to be the easiest person to work with so that when they have another owner that wants to sell, who do you think they bring the deal to first? It's always me because they love working with me. I always say, well, what would you do? Like, how would you renovate this unit? You tell me. I'm in California. You're in Oklahoma City. You tell me how to renovate my apartment so that I can spend the least but get the most rent while still looking very nice and very practical. Right. So it's just, and then people feel appreciated when you do that for them. Because a lot of people will come in and say, hey, I want whatever, laminate flooring, granite countertops, but that might work in California, but in Oklahoma, they don't need it. Right.
Right.
So I really trust and leverage your skills and experience and just know they may mess up, but as long as you learn and pivot for the next time, that's all that matters. So I just always kind of had that mindset where, I'm able to leverage. And same thing, like with my direct mailing campaign, I outsourced that all. The only thing I have to do is pull up the data from PropStream, send it over to the company that does it for me. I already have a copy and paste template that they have, and they've done some of my letters. They know exactly what I'm doing. So at that point, it's pretty automated. And if I want to take it to the next level, I can hire a virtual assistant and they can do it for me too. But I'm not quite there yet. So but there's just ways to outsource yourself out of the job because at the end of the day, I buy real estate to have time freedom and options. But if
Right.
I'm bogged down with this like massive real estate portfolio that I'm managing myself, that sounds miserable to
For
me.
sure. For sure.
So
I
that's
love
why
it
I
where
like
you,
to outsource.
yeah, I love where you said that find the who, which there's a great book on that, who, not
Yeah.
how, which is, that's music to my ears, certainly. And I think I also like the point there when you said, what would you do? Right. I think
Yeah.
that's really cool because letting them do the thinking for you. And also probably they're going to tell you things that you wouldn't have thought through. It's
Yeah.
not that you're lazy, but it's just like, hey, what would you do? How would you solve this problem? As opposed to you being the one that always has to think through it, use your cognitive bandwidth, which is
Yeah.
limited across this many properties, running a pharmacy, running in the hospital or the director of a pharmacy to hospital. You got a lot of things to think about. Let other people use their expertise and tell you what they do. I think that's really awesome. Last question for you. One of the things that you have built in this process is what did you call it? I think we talked about this before we kicked the show off. Not your direct mail service, but you built a course, I think,
Oh
around
yeah.
acquiring multifamily properties.
Yeah, yeah. No, thanks for that. So I created, it's called Making Multifamily Money. It's basically a course that has 120 modules, and it basically just shares my journey and my experience about how I closed on an apartment complex from A through Z. Like I said, I literally did everything by myself from A through Z, right? So
Mm,
I chose my market, I chose my property manager, I chose my direct mailing campaign, I chose my criteria for that. I created a system and a process to basically acquire off-market apartment complexes that typically you negotiate directly with the owner. So I teach everything from A through Z, like how to pick a general contract, how to pick your insurance, how to manage a property manager, how to select your property manager. It's literally an A through Z system, just
mm,
sharing my experiences. And I made a lot of mistakes throughout the past like 2, 3 years. Like I'll be honest, I made $100,000 mistakes, but I hope to kind of condense that into a quick course for people to kind of learn and not make the same mistakes for me. Right.
right,
Because like to me, I wish I had that opportunity where I could have paid money to basically learn and not make these $100,000 mistakes.
right,
So, that was kind of my intent. And it was funny. It just kind of started as me wanting to create it to provide to like my future kids one day, whenever that happens. But I just say, hey, you know what? Let me just try to bring it out there and see if other people want to learn.
right,
Because, like you said, some people just want to know it's possible to scale a large real estate portfolio that's 90 units plus while working full time. Most of the people in my position, they're typically syndicators, and that's their full time job. And so I just want to kind of share my story and kind of create that into educational content. It's comes very natural for me. I work at an academic hospital, so we teach a lot of pharmacy students.
mm,
So it just came very organic to me, and I just kind of wanted to do that as well. And I kind of take the educational approach when, talking with owners, honestly. Like a lot of times, when we start negotiating about price, it gets very tense. But
sure,
I'll just say, like, hey, can you educate me? I'm here in California. You're the person that lives in Oklahoma City. Like, what's a good price for this apartment complex? I literally asked that question, like, what's a good price? And a lot of them are pretty surprised. A lot of them will just say, hey, you make me an offer, or sometimes they'll give me a price. And
right,
one guy came and said, hey, I want the tax assessed price for the property, and I know out the gate if it's tax assessed price is under market value
right.
already.
Generally, yeah,
Yeah. So so it's just asking that question. It builds that trust, but also it helps you learn because sometimes if I came at like, hey, I want to give you 600,000, but maybe they're okay with 500,000.
right.
By me just asking the question, I could have saved $100,000, like right
Valuable
there.
questions.
Yeah, that's the value questions, right? And
Right,
like for me, I'm not, I know what to ask.
right.
So it's really the power of questions. That's funny. I can write a book about that. one day.
There you go, Stephen. We'll look for that here in the next year after you get done, selling off your mobile home parks and everything else. The power of questions. There's your title. You got your next project right there in front of you. Stephen, thank you for taking the time to come on the show today. This was a blast learning about everything that you've done. I won't rehash it all here, but it's pretty cool. So I'm just glad to have you on the show today. Thanks for being so direct and so honest with us about your processes and just kind of how you do it. So that's been really refreshing and nice to hear. If our listeners want to get in touch with you, learn more about your course and or your direct mail service, what is the best way to do that?
Yeah, so you can reach out to me at Steven D. Nguyen on YouTube and at Making Multifamily Money on TikTok and Instagram. And then once you find my social medias, it has a link to my course. It's published on Teachable, and it's called Making Multifamily Money. And from there, you can have access to my course. You can have access to my direct mailing campaign service. So there's 3 plans. There's bronze, silver, and gold. The bronze is just the course. The silver, I'll do 6 months of letters for you. And the gold is I'll do 12 months of letters for you.
Cool.
Because it typically takes about 6 to 12 months to have that success
Right.
with a direct mailing campaign.
Yep, absolutely. Stephen, thank you so much. I certainly appreciate it. Have a great rest of your day.
You too, Sam. Happy to share my journey. And thank you for everything.